Struggling to figure out where all your money goes? Today, I'm breaking down the difference between fixed and flexible expenses and showing you how to set up budget categories that make managing your money simple and stress-free. Welcome to Manifesting Money. I'm Sarah, and here we combine practical budgeting with the magic of manifesting. Understanding your expenses is the first step to taking control of your finances, and trust me, it's easier than you think. Let's dive in. So what are fixed and flexible expenses? Fixed expenses are bills that don't change month to month. Think rent, car payments, subscriptions. They're the non-negotiables in your budget. They're the essentials. Flexible expenses are ones you have more control over. Those are groceries, dining out, entertainment, personal spending. These can fluctuate, and this is where budgeting gets interesting because you can make adjustments here. For example, your rent is fixed. How much you spend on takeout, that's flexible. Organizing your expenses into categories helps you see exactly where your money is going. It's like giving every dollar a purpose. When you know your fixed costs, you can figure out how much is left for flexible spending and savings. So the first thing that we're going to do is to establish all of our fixed expenses. So one of the worksheets that I have made is your monthly bill tracker. So this is going to be everything that is a fixed expense. So I've got my mortgage, my phone bill, all my subscriptions are on here. I've even included things like my water bill, which is paid quarterly. And then I've got some annual subscriptions down here. For the ones that are annual, I usually will just make a box as to when they are going to be due. So I'm going to make another box. So this water bill is quarterly. I know it's due February. Oops. Going to be due March. These boxes. No, ma'am. All right, we've got February, we've got March, August, and then again, November. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, perfect. Okay. So these are the easy ones. So these are the ones you know. So go ahead and list them all out. I've got a row here to put their due date. This worksheet will come in handy later. It's also a tracker, so you can come through and mark off every single month that you've paid them, so you know that they've been paid. You don't have to worry about it. And then I made a column here for auto pay because all of my subscriptions are on auto pay. If you're starting your budgeting journey, I actually recommend taking as many bills off of auto pay as possible, because you'll see when we start working on our paycheck budget worksheets, there's going to be paychecks that pay bills in advance. And if you have to wait for the auto pay to come out and the auto pay is during the next paycheck period, it can get really confusing. So my advice is always to just take everything off of auto pay that you can, because we're going to make sure that we pay them when we're ready to pay them, not when they're due, which is we're going to pay them before they're due. You get it. So once you have all your monthly bills, I've even made a sheet here for your subscriptions and memberships. I feel like this is an area that quickly can get out of control because you're like, oh, $2 a month, $3 a month, $7 a month. But it adds up, especially if you have a lot of different subscriptions. So I've made this worksheet here so you can list all of your subscriptions. Note if it's auto pay or not. Put in the monthly amount, or if it's an annual subscription, put in the yearly amount, and then you can kind of calculate up to the yearly amount. So you can see how much you're spending on these different things to see if that's something that's worth the value to you. You're like, do I watch $200 of Hulu? Yes, the kids and I definitely watch $200 a year worth of Hulu. So pause video, get your worksheets, download them for free. I don't think you should have to spend money to be able to get a handle on your money. So get these 2 worksheets, fill them all out, and now you have your fixed expenses. Moving on, we have our flexible categories. So budget categories are basically helping you see exactly where your money is going. It's like getting every dollar a purpose. And if you have these things, it's easier for you to see where the money is going. Like I say, budgeting is telling your money where to go, not wondering where it went. So I have this worksheet here of all your budget categories. Let me show you how I break this down. So the way that you can kind of find your categories, there's going to be some super obvious ones to you. And those are good. If you really have no idea where to start, what I'm recommending is getting your bank statements. You can look at the past month. If you look at the past 3 months, you can get a really good picture of your average monthly spending in these categories. So I just got one of my expense trackers from end of August. So what I will do is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a category for all of my bills. And bills are always poop colored. So I get my little highlighter tool. This is the color it's going to be. I'm going to call this bills. And this is all of my fixed expenses. So then I'm going to come here, get my highlighter back out, and we're going to find all of my bills. So this one is a bill. Oh, that highlighter is the wrong size. Bigger. Okay. Oh yeah, now we're talking. So that's a bill. That's a bill. I can remember these because this was a while ago. That's a bill. Bill. And the lovely thing about digital planning is that, oh no, my line's a little bit off. Just grab it and put it where it needs to go. Bill. Bill. Oh, wonky. The other thing that you can do with these is you can just duplicate them. So if you're like, well, there it is. Let's see. I think the rest of those are fine. So then I'm going to start looking through my expenses here, and it's just, I will start at the top of the list and just go through them. So I know that Stop and Go is a gas station. So I'm going to make a new category, and I'm going to call it car. But for me, I know that that includes gas, repairs, and maintenance. Okay. So then back here, grab my highlighter again. So I've got that one's a gas station. There's some gas. And then we go through the whole thing. And that's it. Next up, I see I've got groceries here. So I'm going to pick a color for groceries. Go back to this. And for me, groceries is anything that comes from the grocery store. Some people will break it down into like pet expenses, household cleaning expenses, and stuff like that. For me, I love the simple life. So if it comes from the grocery store, it's a grocery. So that's going to be cleaning supplies, food, pet food, etc. So I'm going to come back here, grab my highlighter. There's a grocery one. There's some groceries. Groceries. I think that's it. Perfect. All right. Next, I've got Joanne. You know your girl is crafty. So we make a new category, pick a color. The colors don't matter, whatever colors you like. If you're printing these and doing these paper style, you know what I mean. Just grab a highlighter. Grab a highlighter and your favorite pens. We're going to call this personal. And that's for my personal spending. So again, back here, some personal spending there. Pretty sure that's personal spending. Personal spending. Okay. So you get this. So you'll go through every single item on your list until you have everything categorized. So by the time you're done, you might have budget categories that look like this. So these are all the different categories that I have used over the years. And I will make little notes for myself so that I remember, because sometimes when you're looking at an expense, you're like, oh, that's, so when you're looking at that, you know, you might buy pet food, and sometimes it's hard to like, pet food, does that count as a grocery or is that actual pet, because I have a category for my pets, which would be like their medications, vet visits, items that they need, like collars, food dishes, bowls, that sort of stuff. And then like care, should they be sick and they need veterinary care. So, or like if I get them medication, or, nope, that would be meds. You know what I mean? Anything that kind of falls into that category. So having this as a cheat sheet, to remember what your categories are for and where different expenses would fit into that is ideal. So when you have your expenses, by the time everything is done, it should look something like this, where every single line has a color. The only time I don't color it is if it's income. I leave those white. So if it's like a transfer in from savings, those will stay white. If it's paycheck, that stays white. So once you go through all these things and you have everything categorized, the next step to figure out how much you've been spending on your flexible categories would be to go through, grab a calculator, and total up every single category. So I would go through all of the grocery lines, add those up, make a note. Go through all of the gas lines, add those up, make a note. And if you do that over 3 months, then you have a good average of what you've been spending in those categories. And there's going to be some categories that you don't spend on every month, and there's going to be some categories that you do spend on every month, or every paycheck, I should say. So now you have your fixed expenses, you've established your flexible expenses. Now we're ready to look at so if your math ain't mathin', and you're like, I'm always short, I don't know what's happening, I created this worksheet called Income versus Expenses, where you can write down your income, write down your variable expenses. So this would be for the month. Write down all of your bills, your fixed expenses, and then you can look and see here, your income minus your variable expenses minus your fixed expenses gives you a total. And based on that total, it'll either be over or short. If it's a negative number, you're short. So if your monthly expenses are short, that's when you can start looking at, where can we start making some cuts? Can we dial back some of those variable expenses? Can we cut out some of those subscriptions or bills? Can we, call the electric company and get on budget payment so it's the same amount every month and you can plan on it? So I did that with what I have so far. And I always go conservative with income. Like I said, I work in veterinary medicine. They don't pay. I do work in emergency medicine, so it pays better than most veterinary care, but still. So this is my monthly income, my variable expenses. I put down the ones that I am most likely to spend in any given month. So I marked those here, and then these are all of my bills for the water bill and Nintendo. I did the math and broke those down monthly so that I could account for them. So my income minus my variable expenses minus my fixed expenses leaves me with $29 a month over, which, happy to be here. Glad to have an overage. And like I said, I usually have more income than this because I always aim low, because you never know if things are slow. We get sent home early, call out sick, don't have sick time. That's all kind of accounted there. So usually it's more than that. But I love to see that I am in the green on this every month. So that can kind of give you an idea there. All right. So yes, and I do say, especially with your categories, keep them simple at first. You can always add more categories if, as you're tracking your expenses, you're realizing that there's just no space for this, like it doesn't really fit anywhere. Make a new category for it. And you'll find as you go along what works best for you. And especially when you're first getting started, just start simply. You don't need to go ham with, all 20 categories. You might start with 8 categories and see where it goes from there. But yeah, start small, build as you go. But yeah, let's get going on this. Take control of our expenses. It's probably the scariest part of it, is having to face the truth of where your money's going and what your spending habits look like. So download the worksheets. They're free. They're in the Google Drive. I'll link them below. And start organizing your finances today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share your biggest budgeting challenge in the comments below. I love to help. So let me know how things are going. If you have any questions or anything, definitely let me know, and good luck. We're now getting into it, babies. We're getting into the nitty gritty, and we're making big changes. So I'm very excited that you're here. I'm excited that you're starting to get a handle on these expenses and your spending, and let's keep moving forward and getting this budget under control so we can start manifesting the money that we need for the life of our dreams.